Dune, Prophecy is the latest title in the long line of a franchise curse that began with the novel Dune, House Atreides in 1999. Frank Herbert wrote his original novel in 1965, changing the landscape of science fiction media forever, even serving as an inspiration for Star Wars. The Dune movies so far have been adaptations of Frank Herbert's original book, with the next film being developed based on Dune Messiah. HBO's prequel series, Dune, Prophecy, on the other hand, is based primarily on Brian Herbert and Kevin J. Anderson's 2012 book, Sisterhood of Dune. Set 10,000 years before the movies on Dune's timeline, the HBO spin-off series expands on the world Frank Herbert originally created with material from the Brian Herbert books as well as brand new ideas. It should first be mentioned that the series strictly isn't bad. The production value is what one would expect from an HBO show, and Dune, Prophecy's cast is exceptional. With that being said, the series has been met with a much less stellar reception than 2024's Dune, Part 2, with a mediocre 70% on Rotten Tomatoes. It's worth breaking down why. The non-Frank Herbert Dune books weren't as good as the originals. Brian Herbert and Kevin J. Anderson's novels never reached the same level. Paul Atreides, played by Timothée Chalamet, and Lady Jessica, played by Rebecca Ferguson, juxtaposed next to the covers of various Dune novels. Dune, Prophecy's shortcomings compared to the movies stem from an inherent weakness. While Denis Villeneuve got to adapt a prolific, genre-defining work of literature that's highly regarded as one of the most imaginative novels ever written, HBO's adaptation was of material from Brian Herbert and Kevin J. Anderson's books, which have never been as well received as the originals. This results in an immense challenge in adaptation, as the writers are confined to an already established universe, limiting what they can create or change while also not having the most inspiring story to adapt from. Like Dune, Prophecy, the non-Frank Herbert books aren't terrible. They're decent books that expand the world with some interesting lore and characters. The main issue is that they exist in the shadow of a masterpiece, and they primarily lack the thematic depth and nuance that makes the 1965 novel so legendary. While a television adaptation examining the Bene Gesserit might sound good on paper, it, unfortunately, comes with the same relative disappointment and underwhelming feeling that the expansion books have always been known for. Dune, Prophecy cannot compete with Denis Villeneuve's Dune movies. Dune, Prophecy doesn't have the depth of the Dune movies. Though Denis Villeneuve's movies make changes to Frank Herbert's original Dune text, they are widely perceived as the defining adaptations of the book. Like with Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings trilogy, being the defining adaptation of an iconic book comes with a toll on the franchise, as follow-ups struggle to be well received. It's not solely for the reason that audiences don't want to accept new material, but also that the original set such a high standard for what the franchise can be, and that gold standard becomes nearly impossible to top. Not only have Denis Villeneuve's movies already told what's arguably the best story in the Dune universe, but they've done so with such respectable quality and visual beauty that anything less is painfully noticeable. Dune, Prophecy is shot well and matches the films in many aspects of their production value, but it's not nearly as cinematic and doesn't generate excitement in the same manner. The show won't stand out by competing with the movies, so it has to focus on things like character development and a complex plot, things that feature film-length stories can't offer to the same capacity. Dune, Prophecy highlights the challenge of continuing Dune without Villeneuve. How will Warner Bros. Pursue Children of Dune without its lead actor and director? Paul Atreides from Dune S2 and Valia Harkonnen from Dune Prophecy. Custom image by Anna Nieves. The next problem at stake is that Warner Bros. May want to continue expanding the franchise beyond the current titles. Dune, Prophecy Season 2 and Dune, Part 3 are in the works, but they likely won't stop there. Dune book readers can make arguments for the later Frank Herbert novels being as impressive or better in a particular way, but they're not as popular. And with that factor comes the unfortunate circumstance that they might not be given the same resources or dedication that the first two books have in adaptation. If the Dune saga hopes to continue after Messiah without Denis Villeneuve on board, there are going to be some challenges for the franchise to overcome. Not to mention, the absence of Timothée Chalamet's Paul Atreides could immediately damage the box office results, limiting the resources Warner Bros. Would be willing to expend on Children of Dune and the subsequent sequels. Dune, Prophecy has highlighted potential long-term issues for this franchise. If Warner Bros. Wants it to be one of their marquee titles, they'll have to figure out how to tell exceptional stories without Villeneuve.